Professor Katrina Brown, we're here at the Resilience 2017 conference here in Stockholm. We just heard yours and Professor Carl Folke's opening talk here. And I wanted to ask you, looking back now, since indeed the first Resilience conference in 2008 here in Stockholm, what has changed within this field of research?
I think we've seen this community, the science community, get much bigger. For a start, and also much more diverse. So we have a much greater range of different disciplinary perspectives coming in. There's certainly much more social science, but I think the really interesting and exciting developments we're seeing are this, exploration into arts and humanities, into creative practice. So I think, the community's growing, it's becoming more diverse. And I think at the same time, the sort of science of change has really emphasised, how quickly and how really profound and how, large are the changes that we're facing, on the planet. And I think has highlighted the urgency for action. So I think that's the other really important thing, is that we realise that, transformation is necessary and it's got to happen sooner, not later.
Now, one of your most recent activities is a project called Yumi and Resilience. Tell us, what is this project about?
Right, Yumi and Our Resilience is a project which is interestingly funded as an outreach project. It's not strictly a research project, and it's been a fantastic opportunity for collaboration with social change agents and community theatre practitioners in Kenya, because what we wanted to do was to understand people's experiences and people's strategies to build resilience within the context of poverty. So how people deal with these multiple stressors, almost on a daily basis, and, how they can then cope with especially extreme weather events.
And indeed you mentioned art and theatre. Is it underestimated within science, the use of art and theatre, for instance?
I'm not sure whether or not it's underestimated. I think it's probably underutilised in many ways, because I think that for a while scientists have been using the arts, a whole range of different creative practices to communicate their findings and communicate science. But for me, what's really significant and what's very exciting is actually working it in a very collaborative way to integrate creative practice in our research, rather than just thinking of it as a communications tool. So actually using it because we can find out, new things. And I think that in terms of connecting particularly with people's emotional attachments, of their values, and, with really understanding, I suppose, the different kind of meanings that people have related to change, related to the environment, related to the places that they live and the work that they do, then I think creative practice gives us really new ways that, actually complement and enrich our science.
Today you talked about resilience and the frontiers of resilience research. Now, if we look indeed forward, what are the biggest challenges within resilience research? Where do we go from here? What do we need to improve?
Well, I think that the challenges are very big ones, and I think that in my presentation, I talked about using empathy and building empathy as a way of, building these connections between people in the biosphere. But of course, we're living in a time where, in many ways, people are becoming more disconnected, and we're seeing more divisions, and we're seeing, the rise of inequality and things like that. So those are really big societal, global challenges that, we have to tackle. And I think that it requires a different sort of science, and it requires a science which is very connected to action. and which engages with not only practice but with politics as well as, with each of us as agents of change. But I think our challenges are also about, really changing global consciousness and imagination. We've got to open up a discussion around the world that we live in and the world that we share. And many of the processes of change are at the moment taking us in a very different direction and away from sustainability. And, so there are major challenges to steer back towards sustainability.